Maidan was totally, I would say, domestic affair. So it wasn't influenced by, the reason for Maidan wasn't, Western intervention as it depicted in Russian media. So it was domestic, there were domestic reasons for that. So this was actually non-violent from the very beginning, which lasted for 2.5 months. It was totally non-violent movement against corrupt and criminal dictator. Also, the impetus for that was, as you know pretty well, was a decision of President Yanukovych under Russian pressure not to sign association agreement with the EU. So this is a famous pine tree at Maidan, which is covered by different flags of different nations, European Union at the very height, different European nations, Canada. So this reflects the spirit of Maidan, okay? But now, look, what is a banner in the center? This is a Russian flag. So, which means that there were people in Maidan who also put the Russian flags there, because it was also the hope for many Russians who were living in Ukraine, Russians who were living in Russia, and who came to see by their own eyes what is to receive freedom, to fight for freedom. And that's the explanation, actually. By the way, this is another sign during the days on Maidan, which is written in Russian language and which is signed Sevastopolits, which means the person from Sevastopol. So we are brothers with Russians by blood, but we are not brothers in slavery. And this is exactly why Putin decided to intervene. Because he is afraid not only of Ukrainian democracy, he is interested to discredit Ukrainian democracy, to undermine Ukraine, to prevent Ukraine from becoming a success story and a challenge to his regime. By the way, it's very important to remember that one of the first results of Euromaidan was the return to the constitutional reform of 2004, which was cancelled in a non-constitutional way by Yanukovych. And what does it mean? Return to the constitutional reform means that the power of president is reduced, and we have a mixed system, balanced system, where president is to co-share power with the government, which relies on coalition majority in the parliament, which actually prevents monopolization of power, which is good. But on the other hand, it makes Ukrainian politics to look like European politics, which is usually built on coalitions, which emerge, split, when you have dismissal of ministers, and so on and so forth. And whereas the power of president, which is still important, but is limited. And again, this model definitely is a challenge to Putin. So you understand it pretty well. So I will not talk about Crimea, because I was told that the Crimean issue is known here very well. So just some photos, because I think it's always important to understand. So this is a medal for return of Crimea, which was issued by Russia, which was given to Russian soldiers and sailors, Navy, in Crimea. But what is interesting is that this is dated February 20. And February 20 was the day when President Yanukovych was still president of Ukraine. He was in Kiev, and it wasn't clear what would happen. So basically, it means that occupation of Crimea was planned well in advance. Definitely, the views of Crimean Tatars were not taken into account. And after annexation of Crimea, when we suppose that Putin would be appeased by that, but nevertheless he started Russian infiltration into the past. I'm saying infiltration because at that time there were Russian agents and definitely security services, but there were no regular Russian troops. And the result was that this, basically, even in Donbass, they didn't receive enough support. Majority, according to all the polls which were done in April last year, showed that majority of Donbass would like to stay within Ukraine. And this was the second reason why Putin decided to intervene, to try to change the situation and then destabilize the situation. However, his intervention had counter effect because it actually helped to cement new Ukrainian political nation which emerged after Maidan. And where it doesn't matter what language do you speak, Russian or Ukrainian, or what is your ethnicity. So we can say that this is the idea of territorial political nation. And if you go to even to the front line, I'm visiting the front line from time to time, and you will see people, you will see soldiers and officers and volunteers who are saying in Russian, мы воюем за украинский Донбасс против Путина. In Russian. Слава Украине. Again, in Russian. So this is very important to understand. So what happened basically, by the end of August last year, this was a territory controlled by Russian-supported separatists. So it was less than 2%. You see that Donetsk, Lugansk, they were almost encircled. And again, could we talk about civil war as Russia tried to impose on us this idea? Look at the map. I think it will help you to understand that definitely it's not a civil war. This was the Russia-inspired separatism and supported by Russia. However, Russia intervened, sent regular troops, and definitely changed the situation. So this territory slightly increased. Now it comprises 1/3 of Donbass and 3% of Ukrainian, but still 3% of Ukrainian territory. Okay, so what we have right now, Minsk agreements. Minsk agreements are very complicated and they involve a lot of different clauses which sometimes contradicts each other. The main problem now we see that Minsk agreement definitely didn't list ceasefire, and ceasefire was clause number one. Number one, ceasefire. Number two, withdrawal of heavy weapons. Number three, exchange of all the prisoners, all for all. So basically these are things which are easy technically to implement if there is a political will. Unfortunately, there's no political will, and that's why we see basically low-intensity war. And again, the idea of Putin is that he doesn't need Donbass. Okay, he doesn't want to annex Donbass compared to Crimea, and he doesn't have enough financial resources to support the occupied territories. The idea is to create a separatist control enclave, to legitimize it, to make Kiev the EU Western institution, to pay for the reconstruction of the industry which was dismantled as a result of Russian occupation, and by doing that actually to divert resources from Ukrainian economy, to destabilize situation within Ukraine, and then discredit the new regime which we have in Kiev, to discredit president, prime minister, and try to change the regime. So this is his end game. So in this situation, what I think is that actually the frozen conflict is not the worst solution. I mean the status quo. We have a situation where you have no war, no peace, continued negotiations which do not lead to result, but still Ukraine doesn't have military resources now to liberate occupied territories. We need to be pragmatic, as in the case of Crimea. So, what I think for us, it's important, try to seal the front line, also with support from the West, because we need this support, and then to concentrate on domestic reforms in Ukraine.